Chapter 3.25 How Panurge consulteth with Herr Trippa. Nevertheless, quoth Epistemon, continuing his discourse, I will tell you what you may do, if you believe me, before we return to our king. Hard by here, in the brown-wheat bouchart, island dwelleth Herr Trippa. You know how by the arts of astrology, geomancy, chiromancy, metapomancy, and others of a like stuff and nature, he foretelleth all things to come. Let us talk a little, and confer with him about your business. Of that, answered Panurge, I know nothing. But of this much concerning him I am assured, that one day, and that not long since, whilst he was prating to the great king of celestial, sublime, and transcendent things, the laqueys and footboys of the court, upon the upper steps of stairs between two doors, jumbled, one after another as often as they listed, his wife, who is passable fair, and a pretty snug hussy. Thus he who seemed very clearly to see all heavenly and terrestrial things without spectacles, who discoursed boldly of adventures past, with great confidence opened up present cases and accidents, and stoutly professed the presaging of all future events and contingencies, was not able, with all the skill and cunning that he had, to perceive the bombasting of his wife, whom he reputed to be very chaste, and hath not till this hour got notice of anything to the contrary. Yet let us go to him, seeing you will have it so, for surely we can never learn too much. They on the very next ensuing day came to Herr Trippa's lodging. Panurge, by way of donative, presented him with a long gown lined all through with wolf-skins, with a short sword mounted with a gilded hilt and covered with a velvet scabbard, and with 50 good single angels. Then in a familiar and friendly way did he ask of him his opinion touching the affair. At the very first Herr Trippa, looking on him very wistly in the face, said unto him, Thou hast the metaposcopy and physiognomy of a cuckold, I say, of a notorious and infamous cuckold. With this, casting an eye upon Panurge's right hand in all the parts thereof, he said, This rugged draught which I see here, just under the mount of Jove, was never yet but in the hand of a cuckold. Afterwards, he with a white lead pen swiftly and hastily drew a certain number of diverse kinds of points, which by rules of geomancy he coupled and joined together. Then said, Truth itself is not truer than that it is certain thou wilt be a cuckold a little after thy marriage. That being done, he asked of Panurge the horoscope of his nativity, which was no sooner by Panurge tendered unto him, than that, erecting a figure, he very promptly and speedily formed, and fashioned a complete fabric of the houses of heaven in all their parts, whereof when he had considered the situation and the aspects in their triplicities, he fetched a deep sigh, and said, I have clearly enough already discovered unto you the fate of your cuckoldry, which is unavoidable, you cannot escape it. And here have I got of new a further assurance thereof, so that I may now heartily pronounce and affirm, without any scruple or hesitation at all, that thou wilt be a cuckold, that furthermore, thou wilt be beaten by thine own wife, and that she will purloin, filch, and steal of thy goods from thee. For I find the seventh house, in all its aspects, of a malignant influence, and every one of the planets threatening thee with disgrace, according as they stand seated towards one another, in relation to the horned signs of Aries, Taurus, and Capricorn. In the fourth house, I find Jupiter in a decadence, as also in a tetragonal aspect to Saturn associated with Mercury. Thou wilt be soundly peppered, my good, honest fellow, I warrant thee. I will be, answered Panurge. A plague rot thee, thou old fool and doting sot, how graceless and unpleasant thou art. When all cuckolds shall be at a general rendezvous, thou shouldst be their standard-bearer. But whence comes this sirenworm betwixt these two fingers? This Panurge said, putting the forefinger of his left hand betwixt the fore and mid-finger of the right, which he thrust out towards Herr Trippa, holding them open after the manner of two horns, and shutting into his fist his thumb with the other fingers. Then, in turning to Epistemon, he said, Lo here the true Aulus of Martial, who addicted and devoted himself wholly to the observing the miseries, crosses, and calamities of others, whilst his own wife, in the interim, did keep an open body house. This varlet is poorer than ever was Urus, and yet he is proud, vaunting, arrogant, self-conceited, overweening, and more insupportable than 17 devils. In one word, tochalazin, which term of old was applied to the like beggarly strutting coxcombs. Come, let us leave this madpash bedlam, this harebrained fop, and give him leave to rave and dose his belly full with his private and intimately acquainted devils, who, if they were not the very worst of all infernal fiends, would never have deigned to serve such a knavish barking cur as this is. He hath not learnt the first precept of philosophy, which is, know thyself. For whilst he braggeth and boasteth that he can discern the least mote in the eye of another, he is not able to see the huge block that puts out the sight of both his eyes. This is such another Polypragmon, as is by Plutarch described. He is of the nature of the Lamian witches, who in foreign places, in the houses of strangers, in public, and amongst the common people, had a sharper and more piercing inspection into their affairs than any lynx, but at home in their own proper dwelling mansions were blinder than moldwarps, and saw nothing at all. For their custom was, at their return from abroad, when they were by themselves in private, to take their eyes out of their head, from whence they were as easily removable as a pair of spectacles from their nose, and to lay them up into a wooden slipper which, for that purpose, did hang behind the door of their lodging. Panurge had no sooner done speaking, when Herr Trippa took into his hand a tamarisk branch. In this, quoth Epistemon, he doth very well write and like an artist, for Nicander calleth it the divinatory tree. Have you a mind, quoth Herr Trippa, to have the truth of the matter yet more fully and amply disclosed unto you by pyromancy, by aeromancy, whereof Aristophanes in his clouds maketh great estimation, by hydromancy, by leconomancy, of old in prime request amongst the Assyrians, and thoroughly tried by Hermolaus Barbarus. Come hither, and I will show thee in this platterful of fair fountain water thy future wife lecherring, and circumperizing it with two swaggering ruffians, one after another. Yea, but have a special care, quoth Panurge, when thou comest to put thy nose within mine arse, that thou forget not to pull off thy spectacles. Herr Trippa, going on in his discourse, said, by cataptromancy, likewise held in such account by the Emperor Didius Julianus, that by means thereof he ever and anon foresaw all that which at any time did happen or befall unto him. Thou shalt not need to put on thy spectacles, for in a mirror thou wilt see her as clearly and manifestly nebrundiated and bilibodring it, as if I should show it in the fountain of the temple of Minerva near Patras. By consonancy, most religiously observed of old amidst the ceremonies of the ancient Romans. Let us have a sieve and shears, and thou shalt see devils. By alphatomancy, cried up by Theocritus in his Pharmaceutria. By alentimancy, mixing the flour of wheat with oatmeal. By astrogalamancy, whereof I have the plots and models all at hand ready for the purpose. By tyromancy, whereof we make some proof in a great Brehemont cheese, which I here keep by me. By geromancy, if thou shouldst turn round circles, thou mightest assure thyself from me that they would fall always on the wrong side. By sternomancy, which maketh nothing for thy advantage, for thou hast an ill-proportioned stomach. By libanomancy, for the which we shall need but a little frankincense. By gastromancy, which kind of ventral fat eloquency was for a long time together used in Ferrara by Lady Jacoma Rodagina, the Angastromithian prophetess. By cephalomancy, often practiced amongst the High Germans in their boiling of an ass's head upon burning coals. By ceromancy, where, by the means of wax dissolved into water, thou shalt see the figure, portrait, and lively representation of thy future wife, and of her fredden, fredaliatory belly-thumping blades. By capnomancy, O the gallantest and most excellent of all secrets. By actionomancy, we want only a hatchet and a jet stone to be laid together upon a quick fire of hot embers. Oh, how bravely Homer was versed in the practice hereof towards Penelope's suitors. By onomancy, for that we have oil and wax. By tephromancy, thou wilt see the ashes thus aloft, dispersed, exhibiting thy wife in a fine posture. By botanomancy, for the nonce I have some few leaves in reserve. By sycomancy, O divine art in fig tree leaves. By ichthyomancy, in ancient times so celebrated, and put in use by Tiresias and Polydamas, with the like certainty of event, as was tried of old at the Dinaditch within that grove consecrated to Apollo which is in the territory of the Lycians. By quiromancy, let us have a great many hogs, and thou shalt have the bladder of one of them. By cheromancy, as the bean is found in the cake at the Epiphany Vigil. By anthropomancy, practiced by the Roman Emperor Heliogabalus. It is somewhat irksome, but thou wilt endure it well enough, seeing thou art destinated to be a cuckold. By a sibylline stichomancy. By onomatomancy. How do they call thee? Chotard, quoth Panurge. Or yet by electriomancy. If I should here with a compass draw around, and in looking upon thee, and considering thy lot, divide the circumference thereof into 24 equal parts, then form a several letter of the alphabet upon every one of them. And lastly, posit a barleycorn or two upon each of these so disposed letters, I durst promise upon my faith and honesty that, if a young virgin cock be permitted to range alongst and athwart them, he should only eat the grains which are set and placed upon these letters. A. 100 U, 100 KO, 5500. THOU. SHA 50 T. BA. And that as fatidically as, under the Emperor Valens, most perplexedly desirous to know the name of him who should be his successor to the empire, the cock vaticinating and electriomantic ate up the pickles that were posited on the letters THEO 500. Or, for the more certainty, will you have a trial of your fortune by the art of aruspiciny, by augury, or by extispiciny? By turtispiciny, quoth Panurge. Or yet by the mystery of necromancy? I will, if you please, suddenly set up again and revive someone lately deceased, as Apollonius of Tyne did to Achilles, and the Pythoness in the presence of Saul. Which body, so raised up and requickened, will tell us the sum of all you shall require of him. No more nor less than, at the invocation of Erichtho, a certain defunct person foretold to Pompey the whole progress and issue of the fatal battle fought in the Pharsalian fields. Or, if you be afraid of the dead, as commonly all cuckolds are, I will make use of the faculty of sciamancy. Go, get thee gone, quoth Panurge, thou frantic ass, to the devil, and be buggered, filthy bardachio that thou art, by some Albanian for a steeple-crowned hat. Why the devil didst not thou counsel me, as well to hold an emerald or the stone of a hyena under my tongue, or to furnish and provide myself with tongues of whoops, and hearts of green frogs, or to eat of the liver and milt of some dragon, to the end that by those means I might, at the chanting and chirping of swans and other fowls, understand the substance of my future lot and destiny, as did of old the Arabians in the country of Mesopotamia. 15 brace of devils seize upon the body and soul of this horned renegado, miscreant cuckold, the enchanter, witch, and sorcerer of Antichrist to all the devils of hell. Let us return towards our king. I am sure he will not be well pleased with us, if he once come to get notice that we have been in the kennel of this muffled devil. I repent my being come hither. I would willingly dispense with 100 nobles and 14 yeomans, on condition that he who not long since did blow in the bottom of my breeches should instantly with his squirting spittle illuminate his mustaches. O Lord God now! How the villain hath besmoked me with vexation and anger, with charms and witchcraft, and with a terrible coil and stir of infernal and Tartarian devils. The devil take him. Say Amen, and let us go drink. I shall not have any appetite for my victuals, how good cheer soever I make, these 2 days to come hardly these 4. Chapter 3.26. How Panurge consulteth with Friar John of the Funnels. Panurge was indeed very much troubled in mind and disquieted at the words of Herr Trippa, and therefore, as he passed by the little village of Heims, after he had made his address to Friar John, in pecking at, rubbing, and scratching his own left ear, he said unto him, Keep me a little jovial and merry, my dear and sweet bully, for I find my brains altogether metagrabilized and confounded, and my spirits in a most dunsical puzzle at the bitter talk of this devilish, hellish, damned fool. Hearken, my dainty cod. Mellow 100. Varnished 100. Resolute 100. Lead-colored 100. Renowned 100. Cabbage-like 100. Knurled 100. Matted 100. Courteous 100. Suborned 100. Genitive 100. Fertile 100. Desired 100. Gigantal 100. Whizzing 100. Stuffed 100. Oval 100. Neat 100. Speckled 100. Claustral 100. Common 100. Finely metalled 100. Virile 100. Brisk 100. Arabian-like 100. Staid 100. Quick 100. Trussed up gray, massive 100. Bear-like 100. Hound-like 100. Manual 100. Partitional 100. Mounted 100. Absolute 100. Patronymic 100. Sleeked 100. Well-set 100. Cockney 100. Diapered 100. Gemel 100. Oromercuriated 100. Spotted 100. Turkish 100. Robust 100. Master 100. Burning 100. Appetizing 100. Seated 100. Thwacking 100. Suckerable 100. Lusty 100. Urgent 100. Redoubtable 100. Jupped 100. Handsome 100. Affable 100. Milked 100. Prompt 100. Memorable 100. Cafeted 100. Fortunate 100. Palpable 100. Raised 100. Boxwood 100. Barbable 100. Odd 100. Latin 100. Tragical 100. Steeled 100. Unbridled 100. Transpontine 100. Stale 100. Hooked 100. Digestive 100. Orange tawny 100. Researched 100. Active 100. Embroidered 100. Encompassed 100. Vital 100. Glazed 100. Strouting out 100. Magistral 100. Interlarded 100. Jolly 100. Monachal 100. Burger-like 100. Lively 100. Subtle 100. Empowdered 100. Gerundive 100. Hammering 100. Ebonized 100. Franked 100. Clashing 100. Braciliated 100. Polished 100. Tingling 100. Organized 100. Powdered beef 100. Usual 100. Passable 100. Positive 100. Exquisite 100. Trunkified 100. Spared 100. Trim 100. Furious 100. Bold 100. Succulent 100. Packed 100. Lascivious 100. Factious 100. Hooded 100. Gluttonous 100. Clammy 100. Fat 100. Bolting 100. New vamped 100. High-prized 100. Snorting 100. Improved 100. Requisite 100. Pilfering 100. Mauling 100. Lacod 100. Shaking 100. Sounding 100. Hand-filling 100. Bobbing 100. Battled 100. Insuperable 100. Chivated 100. Burly 100. Agreeable 100. Fumbling 100. Seditious 100. Formidable 100. Topsy-turvying 100. Wardian 100. Profitable 100. Raging 100. Protective 100. Notable 100. Piled up 100. Twinkling 100. Musculous 100. Filled up 100. Able 100. Subsidiary 100. Manly 100. Algoristical 100. Satiric 100. Idle 100. Odoriferous 100. Repercussive 100. Membrous 100. Pranked 100. Convulsive 100. Strong 100. Jocund 100. Restorative 100. Twin 100. Routing 100. Masculinating 100. Belaboring 100. Purlining 100. Incarnative 100. Gentle 100. Frolic 100. Sigillative 100. Stirring 100. Wagging 100. Sallying 100. Confident 100. Ruffling 100. Plump 100. Nimble 100. Jumbling 100. Thundering 100. Round-headed 100. rumbling 100, lecturing 100, figging 100, thumping 100, fulminating 100, helpful 100, bumping 100, sparkling 100, spruce 100, cringeling 100, ramming 100, plucking 100, berumpling 100, lusty 100, ramage 100, jogging 100, household 100, fine 100, knobbing 100, pretty 100, fierce 100, choosing 100, astrolabian 100, brawny 100, tumbling 100, algebraical 100, comped 100, fambling 100, venused 100, repaired 100, overturning 100, aromatizing 100, soft 100, shooting 100, tricksy 100, wild 100, killiting 100, palard 100, renewed 100, jagged 100, gaillard 100, quaint 100, pinked 100, broaching 100, starting 100, arsiversing 100, addle 100, fleshy 100, polished 100, syndicated 100, auxiliary 100, slashed 100, hammed 100, stuffed 100, clashing 100, leisurely 100, well-fed 100, wagging 100, cut 100, flourished 100, script-like 100, smooth 100, fallow 100, incremestered 100, depending 100, sudden 100, bouncing 100, independent 100, graspful 100, leveling 100, lingering 100, swilpow 100, flyflap 100, wrapping 100, crushing 100, perinetegmental 100, reverend 100, creaking 100, squat couching 100, nodding 100, dilting 100, short tongue 100, disseminating 100, ready 100, the hypogastrian 100, affecting 100, vigorous 100, witness bearing 100, affected 100, skulking 100, testigerous 100, grappled 100, superlative 100, instrumental 100, my hark-abusing cod and buttock-stirring Balak, Friar John, my friend, I do carry a singular respect unto thee, and honor thee with all my heart. Thy counsel I hold for a choice and delicate morsel, therefore have I reserved it for the last bit. Give me thy advice freely, I beseech thee, should I marry or no? Friar John very merrily, and with a sprightly cheerfulness made this answer to him, marry, in the devil's name. Why not? What the devil else shouldst thou do but marry? Take thee a wife, and furbish her harness to some tune. Swinge her skin coat, as if thou wert beating on stockfish, and let the repercussion of thy clapper from her resounding metal make a noise, as if a double peal of chiming bells were hung at the cremasters of thy ballocks. As I say, Mary, so do I understand that thou shouldst fall to work as speedily as may be. Yea, my meaning is that thou oughtest to be so quick and forward therein, as on this same very day, before sunset, to cause proclaim thy banns of matrimony, and make provision of bedsteads. By the blood of a hog's pudding, till when wouldst thou delay the acting of a husband's part? Dost thou not know, and is it not daily told unto thee, that the end of the world approacheth? We are nearer it by 3 poles and half a fathom than we were 2 days ago. The Antichrist is already born, at least it is so reported by many. The truth is, that hitherto the effects of his wrath have not reached further than to the scratching of his nurse and governesses. His nails are not sharp enough as yet, nor have his claws attained to their full growth. He is little. Crescat nos qui vivimus multiplismer. It is written so, and it is holy stuff, I warrant you. The truth whereof is like to last as long as a sack of corn may be had for a penny, and a puncheon of pure wine for 3d. Wouldst thou be content to be found with thy genitories full in the day of judgment? Dumb venerate judicary. Thou hast, quoth Panurge, a right, clear and neat spirit, Friar John, my metropolitan cod. Thou speakst in very deed pertinently and to purpose. That belike was the reason which moved Leander of Abydos in Asia, whilst he was swimming through the Hellespontic Sea to make a visit to his sweetheart hero of Cestus in Europe, to pray unto Neptune and all the other marine gods, thus: Now, whilst I go, have pity on me, and at my back returning drown me. He was loth, it seems, to die with his cods overgorged. He was to be commended. Therefore do I promise, that from henceforth no malefactor shall by justice be executed within my jurisdiction of Salmigondinois, who shall not, for a day or two at least before, be permitted to culbut and foraminate onocrotal wise, that there remain not in all his vessels to write a Greek Y. Such a precious thing should not be foolishly cast away. He will perhaps therewith beget a male, and so depart the more contentedly out of this life, that he shall have left behind him one for one. Chapter 3.27. How Friar John merrily and sportingly counselleth Panurge. By Saint Rigomet, quoth Friar John, I do advise thee to nothing, my dear friend Panurge, which I would not do myself were I in thy place. Only have a special care, and take good heed thou solder well together the joints of the double-backed and two-bellied beast, and fortify thy nerves so strongly, that there be no discontinuance in the knocks of the Venerian thwacking, else thou art lost, poor soul. For if there pass long intervals betwixt the priapizing feats, and that thou make an intermission of too large a time, that will befall thee which betides the nurses if they desist from giving suck to children they lose their milk. And if continually thou do not hold thy aspersory tool in exercise, and keep thy mental going, thy lacticinian nectar will be gone, and it will serve thee only as a pipe to piss out at, and thy cods for a wallet of lesser value than a beggar's scrip. This is a certain truth I tell thee, friend, and doubt not of it, for myself have seen the sad experiment thereof in many, who cannot now do what they would, because before they did not what they might have done. Ex disududine amatuntur privilegia. Non-usage oftentimes destroys one's right, say the learned doctors of the law. Therefore, my Billy, entertain as well as possibly thou canst that hypogastrian lower sort of troglodytic people, that their chief pleasure may be placed in the case of sempiternal laboring. Give order that henceforth they live not, like idle gentlemen, idly upon their rents and revenues, but that they may work for their livelihood by breaking ground within the Paphian trenches. Nay, truly, answered Panurge, Friar John, my left ballock, I will believe thee, for thou dealest plain with me, and fallest downright square upon the business, without going about the bush with frivolous circumstances and unnecessary reservations. Thou with the splendor of a piercing wit hast dissipated all the lowering clouds of anxious apprehensions and suspicions, which did intimidate and terrify me. Therefore the heavens be pleased to grant to thee at all she conflicts a stiff-standing fortune. Well then, as thou hast said, so will I do. I will, in good faith, marry in that point there shall be no failing. I promise thee and shall have always by me pretty girls clothed with the name of my wife's waiting maids, that, lying under thy wings, thou mayest be night protector of their sisterhood. Let this serve for the first part of the sermon. Hearken, quoth Friar John, to the oracle of the bells of Varens. What say they? I hear and understand them, quoth Panurge. Their sound is, by my thirst, more uprightly fatidical than that of Jove's great kettles in Dodona. Hearken! Take thee a wife, and marry, marry, marry. For if thou marry, thou shalt find good therein, herein a wife thou shalt find good. So marry, marry. I will assure thee that I shall be married. All the elements invite and prompt me to it. Let this word be to thee a brazen wall, by diffidence not to be broken through. As for the second part of this, our doctrine thou seemest in some measure to mistrust the readiness of my paternity in the practicing of my placatracket within the Aphrodisian tennis court at all times fitting, as if the stiff god of gardens were not favorable to me. I pray thee, favor me so much as to believe that I still have him at a beck, attending always my commandments, docile, obedient, vigorous, and active in all things and everywhere, and never stubborn or refractory to my will or pleasure. I need no more but to let go the reins and slacken the leash, which is the belly point, and when the game is shown unto him, say, Hey, Jack, to thy booty. he will not fail even then to flesh himself upon his prey, and tuzzle it to some purpose. Hereby you may perceive, although my future wife were as unsatiable and gluttonous in her voluptuousness, and the delights of venery as ever was the Empress Messalina, or yet the Marchioness of Oincester in England, and I desire thee to give credit to it, that I lack not for what is requisite to overlay the stomach of her lust, but have wherewith aboundingly to please her. I am not ignorant that Solomon said, who indeed of that matter speaketh clerk-like and learnedly, as also how Aristotle after him declared for a truth that, for the greater part, the lechery of a woman is ravenous and unsatisfiable. Nevertheless, let such as are my friends who read those passages receive from me for a most real verity, that I for such a Jill have a fit jack, and that, if women's things cannot be satiated, I have an instrument indefatigable and implement as copious in the giving as can in craving be their vade mechums. Do not here produce ancient examples of the paragons of Palardus, and offer to match with my testiculatory ability the Priapian prowess of the fabulous fornicators, Hercules, Proculus Caesar, and Mahomet, who in his Alcoran doth vaunt that in his cods he had the vigor of 80 bully ruffians. But let no zealous Christian trust the rogue the filthy ribald rascal is a liar. Nor shalt thou need to urge authorities, or bring forth the instance of the Indian prince of whom Theophrastus, Plinius, and Athenaeus testify, that with the help of a certain herb he was able, and had given frequent experiments thereof, to toss his sinewy piece of generation in the act of carnal concupiscence above 80 times in the space of 24 hours. Of that I believe nothing, the number is supposititious, and too prodigally foisted in. Give no faith unto it, I beseech thee, but prithee trust me in this, and thy credulity therein shall not be wronged, for it is true, and probatum est, that my pioneer of nature the sacred Ithyphalian champion is of all stiff-intruding blades the primest. Come hither, my ballocket, and hearken. Didst thou ever see the monk of Castor's cowl? When in any house it was laid down, whether openly in the view of all or covertly out of the sight of any, such was the ineffable virtue thereof for excitating and stirring up the people of both sexes unto lechery, that the whole inhabitants and indwellers not only of that, but likewise of all the circumjacent places thereto, within 3 leagues around it, did suddenly enter into rut, both beasts and folks, men and women, even to the dogs and hogs, rats and cats. I swear to thee that many times heretofore I have perceived and found in my codpiece a certain kind of energy or efficacious, virtue much more irregular, and of a greater anomaly than what I have related. I will not speak to thee either of house or cottage, nor of church or market, but only tell thee that once at the representation of the Passion which was acted at St. Maxence, I had no sooner entered within the pit of the theatre, but that forthwith, by the virtue and occult property of it, on a sudden all that were there, both players and spectators, did fall into such an exorbitant temptation of lust, that there was not angel, man, devil, nor devulus upon the place, who would not then have bricoliched it with all their heart and soul. The prompter forsook his copy, he who played Michael's part came down to rights, the devils issued out of hell and carried along with them most of the pretty little girls that were there. Yea, Lucifer got out of his fetters. In a word, seeing the huge disorder, I disparked myself forth of that enclosed place, in imitation of Cato the censor, who perceiving, by reason of his presence, the Floralian festivals out of order, withdrew himself. Chapter 3.28 How Friar John comforteth Panurge in the doubtful matter of cuckoldry. I understand thee well enough, said Friar John, but time makes all things plain. The most durable marble or porphyry is subject to old age and decay. Though for the present thou possibly be not weary of the exercise, yet is it like I will hear thee confess a few years hence that thy cods hang dangling downwards for want of a better truss. I see thee waxing a little hoar-headed already. Thy beard, by the distinction of grey, white, tawny, and black, hath to my thinking the resemblance of a map of the terrestrial globe or geographical chart. Look attentively upon, and take inspection, of what I shall show unto thee. Behold there Asia. Here are Tigris and Euphrates. Lo there Afric. Here is the mountain of the moon, yonder thou mayst perceive the fenny march of Nilus. On this side lieth Europe. Dost thou not see the abbey of the Leme? This little tuft, which is altogether white, is the Hyperborean hills. By the thirst of my thrapple, friend, when snow is on the mountains, I say the head and the chin, there is not then any considerable heat to be expected in the valleys and low countries of the codpiece. By the kibes of thy heels, quoth Panurge, thou dost not understand the topics. When snow is on the tops of the hills, lightning, thunder, tempest, whirlwinds, storms, hurricanes, and all the devils of hell rage in the valleys. Wouldst thou see the experience thereof, go to the territory of the Switzers, and earnestly perpend with thyself, there the situation of the lake of Wonderberlick, about 4 leagues distant from Bern, on the Sion side of the land. Thou twittest me with my grey hairs, yet considerest not how I am of the nature of leeks, which with a white head carry a green, fresh, straight, and vigorous tail. The truth is, nevertheless, why should I deny it, that I now and then discern in myself some indicative signs of old age. Tell this, I prithee, to nobody, but let it be kept very close and secret betwixt us two. For I find the wine much sweeter now, more savory to my taste, and unto my palate of a better relish than formerly I was wont to do. And withal, besides mine accustomed manner, I have a more dreadful apprehension than I ever heretofore have had of lighting on bad wine. Note and observe that this doth argue and portend, I know not what of the west and occident of my time, and signifieth that the south and meridian of mine age is past. But what then, my gentle companion? That doth but betoken that I will hereafter drink so much the more. That is not, the devil hail it, the thing that I fear, nor is it there where my shoe pinches. The thing that I doubt most, and have greatest reason to dread and suspect, is, that through some long absence of our King Pantagruel, to whom I must needs bear company should he go to all the devils of Barathrum, my future wife shall make me a cuckold. This is, in truth, the long and short on't. For I am by all those whom I have spoke to menaced and threatened with a horned fortune, and all of them affirm it is the lot to which from heaven I am predestinated. Everyone, answered Friar John, that would be a cuckold is not one. If it be thy fate to be hereafter of the number of that horned cattle, then may I conclude with an ergo, thy wife will be beautiful, and ergo, thou wilt be kindly used by her. Likewise with this ergo, thou shalt be blessed with the fruition of many friends and well-willers. And finally with this other ergo, thou shalt be saved and have a place in paradise. These are monachal topics and maxims of the cloister. Thou mayst take more liberty to sin. Thou shalt be more at ease than ever. There will be nevertheless left for thee, nothing diminished, but thy goods shall increase notably. And if so be it was preordinated for thee, wouldst thou be so impious as not to acquiesce in thy destiny? Speak, thou jaded cod. Fated 100. Louting 100. Appellant 100. Mouldy 100. Discouraged 100. Swagging 100. Musty 100. Surfeited 100. Withered 100. Paltry 100. Peevish 100. Broken-reined 100. Senseless 100. Translated 100. Defective 100. Foundered 100. Forlorn 100. Crestfallen 100. Distempered 100. Unsavory 100. Felled 100. Bewrayed 100. Worm-eaten 100. Fleeted 100. Inveigled 100. Overtoiled 100. Cloyed 100. Dangling 100. Miserable 100. Squeezed 100. Stupid 100. Steeped 100. Resti 100. Seedless 100. Kneaded with cold, pounded 100. Soaked 100. Water 100. Loose 100. Coldish 100. Hacked 100. Fruitless 100. Pickled 100. Flaggy 100. Riven 100. Churned 100. Scrubby 100. Pursy 100. Filliped 100. Drained 100. Fusty 100. Single-fied 100. Hailed 100. Jaddish 100. Begrimed 100. Lolling 100. Fistulous 100. Wrinkled 100. Drenched 100. Languishing 100. Fainted 100. burst 100, maleficiated 100, extenuated 100, stirred up 100, hectic 100, grim 100, mitred 100, worn out 100, wasted 100, peddlingly furnished ill-favored 100, inflamed 100, 100, duncified 100, unhinged 100, rusty 100, macerated 100, scurfy 100, exhausted 100, paralytic 100, straddling 100, perplexed 100, degraded 100, putrefied 100, unhelved 100, benumbed 100, maimed 100, fizzled 100, bat-like 100, overlectured 100, leprous 100, fartshotten 100, drugly 100, bruised 100, sunburnt 100, midified 100, spadonic 100, pacified 100, goat-ridden 100, body 100, blunted 100, weakened 100, mealy 100, rankling tasted 100, ass-ridden 100, wrangling 100, rooted out 100, puff-pasted 100, gangrened 100, costive 100, saint-anthonified 100, crust-risen 100, hailed on 100, untriped 100, ragged 100, cuffed 100, blasted 100, quelled 100, buffeted 100, cut off 100, braggadocio 100, worrited 100, beveraged 100, beggarly 100, robbed 100, scarified 100, trepanned 100, neglected 100, dashed 100, bedusked 100, lame 100, slashed 100, emasculated 100, confused 100, enfeebled 100, corked 100, unsavory 100, whorehunting 100, transparent 100, overthrown 100, deteriorated 100, vile 100, bolted 100, chill 100, antedated 100, trod under 100, scrupulous 100, chopped 100, desolate 100, crazed 100, pinked 100, declining 100, tasteless 100, cup-glassified 100, stinking 100, sorrowful 100, harsh 100, crooked 100, murdered 100, beaten 100, brabbling 100, Mattachin-like 100, barred 100, rotten 100, besotted 100, abandoned 100, anxious 100, customerless 100, confounded 100, clouded 100, minced 100, loutish 100, tired 100, exulcerated 100, borne down 100, proud 100, patched 100, sparred 100, fractured 100, stupefied 100, abashed 100, melancholy 100, annihilated 100, unseasonable 100, coxcombly 100, spent 100, oppressed 100, base 100, foiled 100, grated 100, bleaked 100, anguished 100, falling away 100, detested 100, disfigured 100, small cut 100, diaphanous 100, disabled 100, disordered 100, unworthy 100, forceless 100, latticed 100, checked 100, censured 100, ruined 100, mangled 100, cut 100, exasperated 100, turned over 100, rifled 100, rejected 100, harried 100, undone 100, belammed 100, flawed 100, corrected 100, fabricitant 100, froward 100, slit 100, perused 100, ugly 100, skittish 100, emasculated 100, drawn 100, spongy 100, roughly handled 100, riven 100, botched 100, examined 100, distasteful 100, dejected 100, cracked 100, hanging 100, jagged 100, wayward 100, broken 100, pining 100, haggled 100, limber 100, deformed 100, gleaning 100, effeminate 100, mischieved 100, ill-favored 100, kindled 100, cobbled 100, pulled 100, evacuated 100, embossed 100, drooping 100, grieved 100, ransacked 100, faint 100, carking 100, despised 100, parched 100, disorderly 100, mangy 100, paltry 100, empty 100, abased 100, cankered 100, disquieted 100, supine 100, void 100, besisted 100, mendied 100, vexed 100, confounded 100, dismayed 100, bestunk 100, hooked 100, divorous 100, winnowed 100, unlucky 100, wearied 100, decayed 100, sterile 100, sad 100, disastrous 100, beschitten 100, cross 100, unhandsome 100, appeased 100, vainglorious 100, stummed 100, caitiff 100, poor 100, barren 100, woeful 100, brown 100, wretched 100, unseemly 100, shrunken 100, feeble 100, heavy 100, abhorred 100, cast down 100, weak 100, troubled 100, stopped 100, prostrated 100, scornful 100, kept under 100, uncomely 100, dishonest 100, stubborn 100, naughty 100, reproved 100, ground 100, laid flat 100, cocketed 100, wretchless 100, suffocated 100, filthy 100, weather-beaten 100, held down 100, shred 100, flayed 100, barked 100, chawned 100, bald 100, hairless 100, short-winded 100, tossed 100, flamping 100, branchless 100, flapping 100, hooded 100, chapped 100, cleft 100, wormy 100, failing 100, meager 100. Besisted, in his anxiety to swell his catalogue as much as possible, Sir Thomas Urquhart has set down this word twice. 100. Deficient 100. Dumpified 100. Faulty 100. Lean 100. Suppressed 100. Bemealed 100. Consumed 100. Hagged 100. Mortified 100. Used 100. Jopped 100. Scurvy 100. Puzzled 100. Havocked 100. Bescabbed 100. Allayed 100. Astonished 100. Torn 100. Spoiled 100. Dulled 100. Subdued 100. Clagged 100. Slow 100. Sneaking 100. Palsy-stricken 100. Plucked up 100. Bare 100. Amazed 100. Constipated 100. Swart 100. Bedunced 100. Blown 100. Smutched 100. Extirpated 100. blockified 100, raised up 100, banged 100, pommeled 100, chopped 100, stripped 100, ultibemaled 100, flirted 100, hoary 100, fallen away 100, blamed 100, blotted 100, stale 100, renzy 100, sunken 100, corrupted 100, frowning 100, ghastly 100, beflowered 100, limping 100, unpointed 100, amatted 100, raveled 100, beblistered 100, blackish 100, rammish 100, wizened 100, underlaid 100, gaunt 100, beggar-plated 100, loathing 100, beskimmered 100, doof 100, ill-filled 100, scraggy 100, clardy 100, bobbed 100, lank 100, lumpish 100, mated 100, swashering 100, abject 100, tawny 100, moiling 100, side 100, wheeled 100, swinking 100, choked up 100, besmeared 100, harried 100, backward 100, hollow 100, tugged 100, prolix 100, pantless 100, toed 100, spotted 100, guizened 100, misused 100, crumpled 100, demis 100, atomitical 100, frumpled 100, refractory 100. Balakatso to the devil, my dear friend Panurge, seeing it is so decreed by the gods, wouldst thou invert the course of the planets and make them retrograde? Wouldst thou disorder all the celestial spheres, blame the intelligences, blunt the spindles, joint the werves, slander the spinning quills, reproach the bobbins, revile the clue bottoms, and finally ravel and untwist all the threads of both the warp and the waft of the weird sister parky? What a pox to thy bones dost thou mean, stony cod? Thou wouldst, if thou couldst, a great deal worse than the giants of old intended to have done. Come hither, Billicullion. Whether wouldst thou be jealous without cause, or be a cuckold and know nothing of it? Neither the one nor the other, quoth Panurge, would I choose to be. But if I get an inkling of the matter, I will provide well enough. Or there shall not be one stick of wood within 500 leagues about me, whereof to make a cudgel. In good faith, Friar John, I speak now seriously unto thee, I think it will be my best not to marry. Hearken to what the bells do tell me, now that we are nearer to them. Do not marry, marry not, marries, marry not. If thou marry, thou wilt miscarry, carry, thou'lt repent it, resent it, sent it. If thou marry, thou a cuckold, a cuckoo cuckold thou shalt be. By the worthy wrath of God, I begin to be angry. This campanilian oracle fretteth me to the gutsay March hare, was never in such a chafe as I am. Oh, how I am vexed! You monks and friars of the cowl-pated and hood-poled fraternity, have you no remedy, nor salve against this malady of graffing horns and heads? Hath nature so abandoned humankind, and of her help left us so destitute, that married men cannot know how to sail through the seas of this mortal life, and be safe from the whirlpools, quicksands, rocks, and banks that lie alongst the coast of Cornwall? I will, said Friar John, show thee a way and teach thee an expedient by means whereof thy wife shall never make thee a cuckold without thy knowledge and thine own consent. Do me the favor, I pray thee, quoth Panurge, my pretty, soft, downy cod. Now tell it, Billy, tell it, I beseech thee. Take, quoth Friar John, Hans Carvel's ring upon thy finger, who was the king of Melinda's chief jeweler. Besides that this Hans Carvel had the reputation of being very skillful and expert in the lapidary's profession. He was a studious, learned, and ingenious man, a scientific person, full of knowledge, a great philosopher of a sound judgment, of a prime wit, good sense, clear-spirited, an honest creature, courteous, charitable, a giver of alms, and of a jovial humor, a boon companion, and a merry blade, if ever there was any in the world. He was somewhat gorbiled, had a little shake in his head, and was in effect unwieldy of his body. In his old age, he took to wife the bailiff of Concordet's daughter. Young, fair, jolly, gallant, spruce, frisk, brisk, neat, feat, smirk, smug, compt, quaint, gay, fine, tricksy, trim, decent, proper. Graceful, handsome, beautiful, comely, and kinda little too much to her neighbors and acquaintance. Hereupon it fell out, after the expiring of a scantling of weeks, that Master Carvel became as jealous as a tiger, and entered into a very profound suspicion that his new-married Jixie did keep a buttock stirring with others. To prevent which inconveniency, he did tell her many tragical stories of the total ruin of several kingdoms by adultery, did read unto her the legend of chaste wives, then made some lectures to her in the praise of the choice virtue of pudicity, and did present her with a book in commendation of conjugal fidelity, wherein the wickedness of all licentious women was odiously detested. And withal he gave her a chain enriched with pure oriental sapphires. Notwithstanding all this, he found her always more and more inclined to the reception of her neighbor copsemates. That day by day his jealousy increased. In sequel whereof, one night as he was lying by her, whilst in his sleep the rambling fancies of the lecherous deportments of his wife did take up the cellules of his brain, he dreamt that he encountered with the devil, to whom he had discovered to the full the buzzing of his head and suspicion that his wife did tread her shoe awry. The devil, he thought, in this perplexity did for his comfort give him a ring, and therewithal did kindly put it on his middle finger, saying, Hans Carvel, I give thee this ring whilst thou carriest it upon that finger. Thy wife shall never carnally be known by any other than thyself, without thy special knowledge and consent. Gramercy, quoth Hans Carvel, my lord devil, I renounce Mahomet if ever it shall come off my finger. The devil vanished, as is his custom, and then Hans Carvel, full of joy awaking, found that his middle finger was as far as it could reach within the what do they call it of his wife. I did forget to tell thee how his wife, as soon as she had felt the finger there, said, in recoiling her buttocks, off, yes, nay, tut, pish, tush, ay, lord, that is not the thing which should be put up in that place. With this Hans Carvel thought that some pilfering fellow was about to take the ring from him. Is not this an infallible and sovereign antidote? Therefore, if thou wilt believe me, in imitation of this example, never fail to have continually the ring of thy wife's commodity upon thy finger. When that was said, their discourse and their way ended. Chapter 3.29. How Pantagruel convocated together a theologian, physician, lawyer, and philosopher, for extricating Panurge out of the perplexity wherein he was. No sooner were they come into the royal palace, but they to the full made report unto Pantagruel of the success of their expedition, and showed him the response of Raminagribus. When Pantagruel had read it over and over again, the oftener he perused it being the better pleased therewith, he said, in addressing his speech to Panurge, I have not as yet seen any answer framed to your demand, which affordeth me more contentment. For in this his succinct copy of verses, he summarily and briefly, yet fully enough expresseth how he would have us to understand that everyone in the project and enterprise of marriage ought to be his own carver, sole arbitrator of his proper thoughts, and from himself alone take counsel in the main and peremptory closure of what his determination should be, in either his assent to or dissent from it. Such always hath been my opinion to you, and when at first you spoke thereof to me, I truly told you this same very thing. But tacitly you scorned my advice, and would not harbor it within your mind. I know for certain, and therefore may I with the greater confidence utter my conception of it, that filiality, or self-love, is that which blinds your judgment and deceiveth you. Let us do otherwise, and that is this: whatever we are, or have consisteth in three things: the soul, the body, and the goods. Now, for the preservation of these three, there are three sorts of learned men ordained, each respectively to have care of that one which is recommended to his charge. Theologues are appointed for the soul, physicians for the welfare of the body, and lawyers for the safety of our goods. Hence it is that it is my resolution to have on Sunday next with me at dinner a divine, a physician, and a lawyer, that with those three assembled thus together, we may in every point and particle confer at large of your perplexity. By Saint Pico, answered Panurge, we never shall do any good that way, I see it already. And you see yourself how the world is vilely abused, as when with a foxtail one claps another's breech to cajole him. We give our souls to keep to the theologues, who for the greater part are heretics. Our bodies we commit to the physicians, who never themselves take any physic. And then we entrust our goods to the lawyers, who never go to law against one another. You speak like a courtier, quoth Pantagruel. But the first point of your assertion is to be denied. For we daily see how good theologues make it their chief business, their whole and sole employment, by their deeds, their words, and writings, to extirpate errors and heresies out of the hearts of men, and in their stead profoundly plant the true and lively faith. The second point you spoke of I commend. For, whereas the professors of the art of medicine give so good order to the prophylactic, or conservative part of their faculty, in what concerneth their proper healths, that they stand in no need of making use of the other branch, which is the curative or therapeutic, by medicaments. As for the third, I grant it to be true, for learned advocates and counselors at law are so much taken up with the affairs of others in their consultations, pleadings, and such like patrocinations of those who are their clients, that they have no leisure to attend any controversies of their own. Therefore, on the next ensuing Sunday, let the divine be our godly Father Hippothatty, the physician our honest Master Rondabilles, and our legist our friend Bridlegoose. Nor will it be, to my thinking amiss, that we enter into the Pythagoric field, and choose for an assistant to the three aforenamed doctors our ancient faithful acquaintance, the philosopher Truilogan, especially seeing a perfect philosopher, such as is Truilogan, is able positively to resolve all whatsoever doubts you can propose. Carpelin, have you care to have them here all four on Sunday next at dinner, without fail. I believe, quoth Epistemen, that throughout the whole country, in all the corners thereof, you could not have pitched upon such other four. Which I speak not so much in regard of the most excellent qualifications and accomplishments, wherewith all of them are endowed for the respective discharge and management of each his own vocation and calling, wherein without all doubt or controversy they are the paragons of the land, and surpass all others. As for that Rondabilles is married now, who before was not, Hippothatty was not before, nor is yet. Bridlegoose was married once, but is not now, and Truilogan is married now. Who wedded was to another wife before. Sir, if it may stand with your good liking, I will ease Carpelin of some parcel of his labor, and invite Bridlegoose myself, with whom I of a long time have had a very intimate familiarity, and unto whom I am to speak on the behalf of a pretty hopeful youth who now studieth at Toulouse, under the most learned virtuous Dr. Boissonnet. Do what you deem most expedient, quoth Pantagruel, and tell me if my recommendation can in anything be steadable for the promoval of the good of that youth, or otherwise serve for bettering of the dignity and office of the worthy Boissonnet, whom I do so love and respect for one of the ablest and most sufficient in his way that anywhere are extant. Sir, I will use therein my best endeavors, and heartily bestir myself about it. Chapter 3.3 How the Theologue, Hippothatty, giveth counsel to Panurge in the matter and business of his nuptial enterprise. The dinner on the subsequent Sunday was no sooner made ready than that the aforenamed invited guests gave thereto their appearance, all of them, Bridlegoose only excepted, who was the deputy governor of Fonsbetten. At the ushering in of the second service, Panurge, making a low reverence, spake thus: Gentlemen, the question I am to propound unto you shall be uttered in very few words, should I marry or no. If my doubt herein be not resolved by you, I shall hold it altogether insolvable, as are the insolubilia de aliaco. For all of you are elected, chosen, and culled out from amongst others, every one in his own condition and quality, like so many picked peas on a carpet. The Father Hippothatty, in obedience to the bidding of Pantagruel, and with much courtesy to the company, answered exceeding modestly after this manner: My friend, you are pleased to ask counsel of us, but first you must consult with yourself. Do you find any trouble or disquiet in your body, by the importunate stings and pricklings of the flesh? That I do, quoth Panurge, in a hugely strong and almost irresistible measure. Be not offended, I beseech you, good father, at the freedom of my expression. No, truly, friend, not I, quoth Hippothatty, there is no reason why I should be displeased therewith. But in this carnal strife and debate of yours, have you obtained from God the gift and special grace of continency? In good faith not, quoth Panurge. My counsel to you in that case, my friend, is that you marry, quoth Hippothathe, for you should rather choose to marry once than to burn still in fires of concupiscence. Then Panurge, with a jovial heart and a loud voice, cried out, that is spoke gallantly, without circumbilivaginating about, and never hitting it in its scented point. Gramercy, my good father. In truth, I am resolved now to marry, and without fail I shall do it quickly. I invite you to my wedding. By the body of a hen, we shall make good cheer, and be as merry as crickets. You shall wear the bridegroom's colors, and, if we eat a goose, my wife shall not roast it for me. I will entreat you to lead up the first dance of the bridesmaids, if it may please you to do me so much favor and honor. There resteth yet a small difficulty, a little scruple, yea, even less than nothing, whereof I humbly crave your resolution. Shall I be a cuckold, father, yea or no? By no means, answered Hippothathe, will you be cuckolded, if it please God. O the Lord help us now, quoth Panurge, whither are we driven to, good folks? To the conditionals, which, according to the rules and precepts of the dialectic faculty, admit of all contradictions and impossibilities. If my transalpine mule had wings, my transalpine mule would fly. If it please God, I shall not be a cuckold, but I shall be a cuckold if it please him. Good God, if this were a condition which I knew how to prevent, my hopes should be as high as ever, nor would I despair. But you here send me to God's privy council, to the closet of his little pleasures. You, my French countrymen, which is the way you take to go thither? My honest father, I believe it will be your best not to come to my wedding. The clutter and dingle-dangle noise of marriage guests will but disturb you, and break the serious fancies of your brain. You love repose, with solitude and silence. I really believe you will not come. And then you dance but indifferently, and would be out of countenance at the first entry. I will send you some good things to your chamber, together with the bride's favor, and there you may drink our health, if it may stand with your good liking. My friend, quoth Hippothathe, take my words in the sense wherein I meant them, and do not misinterpret me. When I tell you if it please God, do I to you any wrong therein? Is it an ill expression? Is it a blaspheming clause, or reserve any way scandalous unto the world? Do not we thereby honor the Lord God Almighty, Creator, Protector, and Conserver of all things? Is not that a mean, whereby we do acknowledge him to be the sole giver of all whatsoever is good? Do not we in that manifest our faith that we believe all things to depend upon his infinite and incomprehensible bounty, and that without him nothing can be produced, nor after its production be of any value, force, or power, without the concurring aid and favor of his assisting grace? Is it not a canonical and authentic exception, worthy to be premised to all our undertakings? Is it not expedient that what we propose unto ourselves be still referred to what shall be disposed of by the sacred will of God, unto which all things must acquiesce in the heavens as well as on the earth? Is not that verily a sanctifying of his holy name? My friend, you shall not be a cuckold, if it please God, nor shall we need to despair of the knowledge of his good will and pleasure herein, as if it were such an abstruse and mysteriously hidden secret, that for the clear understanding thereof it were necessary to consult with those of his celestial privy council, or expressly make a voyage unto the empyrean chamber, where order is given for the effectuating of his most holy pleasures. The great God hath done us this good, that he hath declared and revealed them to us openly and plainly, and described them in the Holy Bible. There will you find that you shall never be a cuckold, that is to say, your wife shall never be a strumpet, if you make choice of one of a commendable extraction, descended of honest parents, and instructed in all piety and virtue such, a one as hath not at any time haunted or frequented the company or conversation of those that are of corrupt and depraved manners, one loving and fearing God, who taketh a singular delight in drawing near to him by faith and the cordial observing of his sacred commandments, and, finally, one who, standing in awe of the divine majesty of the Most High, will be loth to offend him and lose the favorable kindness of his grace through any defect of faith or transgression against the ordinances of his holy law, wherein adultery is most rigorously forbidden, and a close adherence to her husband alone most strictly and severely enjoined. Yea, in such sort that she is to cherish, serve, and love him above anything next to God, that meriteth to be beloved. In the interim, for the better schooling of her in these instructions, and that the wholesome doctrine of a matrimonial duty may take the deeper root in her mind, you must needs carry yourself so on your part, and your behavior is to be such, that you are to go before her in a good example, by entertaining her unfeignedly with a conjugal amity, by continually approving yourself in all your words and actions a faithful and discreet husband, and by living, not only at home and privately with your own household and family, but in the face also of all men and open view of the world, devoutly, virtuously, and chastely, as you would have her on her side to deport and to demean herself towards you, as becomes a godly, loyal, and respectful wife, who maketh conscience to keep inviolable the tie of a matrimonial oath. For as that looking-glass is not the best which is most decked with gold and precious stones, but that which representeth to the eye the liveliest shapes of objects set before it, even so that wife should not be most esteemed who richest is and of the noblest race, but she who, fearing God, conforms herself nearest unto the humor of her husband. Consider how the moon doth not borrow her light from Jupiter, Mars, Mercury, or any other of the planets, nor yet from any of those splendid stars which are set in the spangled firmament, but from her husband only, the bright sun, which she receiveth from him more or less, according to the manner of his aspect and variously bestowed irradiations. Just so should you be a pattern to your wife in virtue, goodly zeal, and true devotion, that by your radiance in darting on her the aspect of an exemplary goodness, she, in your imitation, may outshine the luminaries of all other women. To this effect you daily must implore God's grace to the protection of you both. You would have me then, quoth Panurge, twisting the whiskers of his beard on either side with the thumb and forefinger of his left hand, to espouse and take to wife the prudent frugal woman described by Solomon. Without all doubt she is dead, and truly to my best remembrance I never saw her. The Lord forgive me. Nevertheless, I thank you, Father. Eat this slice of marchpane, it will help your digestion. Then shall you be presented with a cup of claret hippocras, which is right healthful and stomachal. Let us proceed. Chapter 3.31. How the physician Rondabilis counselleth Panurge. Panurge, continuing his discourse, said, the first word which was spoken by him who gelded the lubberly, quaffing monks of Sauciniac, after that he had unstoned Friar Calderale, was this to the rest. In like manner, I say, to the rest. Therefore I beseech you, my good master Rondabilis, should I marry or not? By the raking pace of my mule, quoth Rondabilis, I know not what answer to make to this problem of yours. You say that you feel in you the pricking stings of sensuality, by which you are stirred up to venery. I find in our faculty of medicine, and we have founded our opinion therein upon the deliberate resolution and final decision of the ancient Platonics, that carnal concupiscence is cooled and quelled 5 several ways. First, by the means of wine. I shall easily believe that, quoth Friar John, for when I am well whittled with the juice of the grape I care for nothing else, so I may sleep. When I say, quoth Rondabilis, that wine abateth lust, my meaning is, wine immoderately taken. For by intemperancy proceeding from the excessive drinking of strong liquor, there is brought upon the body of such a swill-down boozer a chillness in the blood, a slackening in the sinews, a dissipation of the generative seed, a numbness and habitation of the senses, with a perversive wryness and convulsion of the muscles all, which are great lets and impediments to the act of generation. Hence it is that Bacchus, the god of bibbers, tipplers, and drunkards, is most commonly painted beardless and clad in a woman's habit, as a person altogether effeminate, or like a libbed eunuch. Wine, nevertheless, taken moderately, worketh quite contrary effects, as is implied by the old proverb, which saith that Venus takes cold when not accompanied with Ceres and Bacchus. This opinion is of great antiquity, as appeareth by the testimony of Diodorus the Sicilian, and confirmed by Pausanias, and universally held amongst the Lampsatians, that Don Priapus was the son of Bacchus and Venus. Secondly, the fervency of lust is abated by certain drugs, plants, herbs, and roots, which make the taker cold, maleficiated, unfit for, and unable to perform the act of generation. As hath been often experimented in the water lily, Heraclea, Agnus castus, willow twigs, hempstalks, woodbine, honeysuckle, tamarisk, chaste tree, mandrake, bennet, kekbagloss, the skin of a hippopotam, and many other such. which, by convenient doses proportioned to the peccant humor and constitution of the patient, being duly and seasonably received within the body what by their elementary virtues on the one side and peculiar properties on the other do either benumb, mortify, and beclumps with cold the prolific semence, or scatter and disperse the spirits which ought to have gone along with, and conducted the sperm to the places destined and appointed for its reception, or lastly, shut up, stop, and obstruct the ways, passages, and conduits through which the seed should have been expelled, evacuated, and ejected. We have nevertheless of those ingredients which, being of a contrary operation, heat the blood, bend the nerves, unite the spirits, quicken the senses, strengthen the muscles, and thereby rouse up, provoke, excite, and enable a man to the vigorous accomplishment of the feat of amorous dalliance. I have no need of those, quoth Panurge, God be thanked, and you, my good master. Howsoever, I pray you, take no exception or offense at these my words. For what I have said was not out of any ill will I did bear to you, the Lord he knows. Thirdly, the ardor of lechery is very much subdued, and mated by frequent labor and continual toiling. For by painful exercises and laborious working, so great a dissolution is brought upon the whole body, that the blood, which runneth alongst the channels of the veins thereof for the nourishment and alimentation of each of its members, hath neither time, leisure, nor power to afford the seminal resudation, or superfluity of the third concoction, which nature most carefully reserves for the conservation of the individual, whose preservation she more heedfully regardeth than the propagating of the species and the multiplication of humankind. Whence it is that Diana is said to be chaste, because she is never idle, but always busied about her hunting. For the same reason was a camp or leaguer of old called castrum, as if they would have said castum, because the soldiers, wrestlers, runners, throwers of the bar, and other such-like athletic champions, as are usually seen in a military circumvallation, do incessantly travail and turmoil, and are in a perpetual stir and agitation. To this purpose Hippocrates also writeth in his book, De Air, Aqua et Locis, that in his time there were people in Scythia as impotent as eunuchs in the discharge of a Venerian exploit, because that without any cessation, pause, or respite they were never from off horseback, or otherwise assiduously employed in some troublesome and molesting drudgery. On the other part, in opposition and repugnancy hereto, the philosophers say that idleness is the mother of luxury. When it was asked Ovid why Aegisthus became an adulterer, he made no other answer but this, because he was idle. Who were able to rid the world of loitering and laziness might easily frustrate and disappoint Cupid of all his designs, aims, engines, and devices, and so disable and appall him that his bow, quiver, and darts should from thenceforth be a mere needless load and burden to him, for that it could not then lie in his power to strike or wound any of either sex with all the arms he had. He is not, I believe, so expert an archer as that he can hit the cranes flying in the air, or yet the young stags skipping through the thickets, as the Parthians knew well how to do. That is to say, people moiling, stirring, and hurrying up and down, restless, and without repose. He must have those hushed, still, quiet, lying at a stay lither, and full of ease, whom he is able, though his mother help him, to touch, much less to pierce with all his arrows. In confirmation hereof, Theophrastus, being asked on a time what kind of beast or thing he judged a toyish, wanton love to be, he made answer that it was a passion of idle and sluggish spirits. From which pretty description of tickling love tricks, that of Diogenes's hatching, was not very discrepant, when he defined lechery the occupation of folks destitute of all other occupation. For this cause the Ciconian engraver Canachus, being desirous to give us to understand that sloth, drowsiness, negligence, and laziness were the prime guardians and governesses of ribaldry, made the statue of Venus, not standing, as other stone-cutters had used to do, but sitting. Fourthly, the tickling pricks of incontinency are blunted by an eager study. For from thence proceedeth an incredible resolution of the spirits, that oftentimes there do not remain so many behind as may suffice to push and thrust forwards the generative resudation to the places thereto appropriated, and therewithal inflate the cavernous nerve, whose office is to ejaculate the moisture for the propagation of human progeny. Lest you should think it is not so, Be pleased but to contemplate a little the form, fashion, and carriage of a man exceeding earnestly set upon some learned meditation, and deeply plunged therein, and you shall see how all the arteries of his brains are stretched forth and bent like the string of a crossbow, the more promptly, dexterously, and copiously to suppeditate, furnish, and supply him with store of spirits sufficient to replenish and fill up the ventricles, seats, tunnels, mansions, receptacles, and cellules of the common sense of the imagination, apprehension and fancy of the ratiocination, arguing and resolution as likewise of the memory, recordation and remembrance, and with great alacrity, nimbleness, and agility to run, pass, and course from the one to the other, through those pipes, windings, and conduits which to skillful anatomists are perceivable at the end of the wonderful net, where all the arteries close in a terminating point. Which arteries, taking their rise and origin from the left capsule of the heart, bring through several circuits, ambages, and anfructuosities, the vital, to subtilize and refine them to the ethereal purity of animal spirits. Nay, in such a studiously musing person you may espy so extravagant raptures of one as it were out of himself, that all his natural faculties for that time will seem to be suspended from each their proper charge and office, and his exterior senses to be at a stand. In a word, you cannot otherwise choose than think that he is, by an extraordinary ecstasy, quite transported out of what he was, or should be. And that Socrates did not speak improperly when he said that philosophy was nothing else but a meditation upon death. This possibly is the reason why Democritus deprived himself of the sense of seeing, prizing at a much lower rate the loss of his sight than the diminution of his contemplations, which he frequently had found disturbed by the vagrant, flying out strayings of his unsettled and roving eyes. Therefore is it that Pallas, the goddess of wisdom, tutoress and guardianess of such as are diligently studious and painfully industrious, is and hath been still accounted a virgin. The Muses upon the same consideration are esteemed perpetual maids, and the Graces, for the like reason, have been held to continue in a sempiternal pudicity. I remember to have read that Cupid, on a time being asked of his mother Venus why he did not assault and set upon the Muses, his answer was that he found them so fair, so sweet, so fine, so neat, so wise, so learned, so modest, so discreet, so courteous, so virtuous, and so continually busied and employed one in the speculation of the stars another, in the supputation of numbers the third, in the dimension of geometrical quantities, the fourth in the composition of heroic poems the fifth, in the jovial interludes of a comic strain the sixth, in the stately gravity of a tragic vein the seventh, in the melodious disposition of musical airs, the eighth, in the completest manner of writing histories and books on all sorts of subjects, and the ninth in the mysteries, secrets, and curiosities of all sciences, faculties, disciplines, and arts whatsoever, whether liberal or mechanic, that approaching near unto them, he unbended his bow, shut his quiver, and extinguished his torch, through mere shame and fear that by mischance he might do them some hurt or prejudice. Which done, he thereafter put off the fillet wherewith his eyes were bound to look them in the face, and to hear their melody and poetic odes. There took he the greatest pleasure in the world, that many times he was transported with their beauty and pretty behavior, and charmed asleep by the harmony. So far was he from assaulting them or interrupting their studies. Under this article may be comprised what Hippocrates wrote in the aforecited treatise concerning the Scythians, as also that in a book of his entitled Of Breeding and Production, where he hath affirmed all such men to be unfit for generation, as have their parotid arteries cut, whose situation is beside the ears for the reason given already when I was speaking of the resolution of the spirits, and of that spiritual blood whereof the arteries are the sole and proper receptacles, and that likewise he doth maintain a large portion of the peristatic liquor to issue and descend from the brains and backbone. Fifthly, by the too frequent reiteration of the act of venery. There did I wait for you, quoth Panurge, and shall willingly apply it to myself, whilst any one that pleaseth may, for me, make use of any of the four preceding. That is the very same thing, quoth Friar John, which Father Sileno, prior of Saint Victor at Marseille, calleth by the name of maceration and taming of the flesh. I am of the same opinion, and so was the hermit of Saint Radegond, a little above Chinon. For, quoth he, the hermits of the Bade can no more aptly or expediently macerate and bring down the pride of their bodies, daunt and mortify their lecherous sensuality, or depress and overcome the stubbornness and rebellion of the flesh, than by duffling and fanfreluching it 25 or 30 times a day. I see Panurge, quoth Rondabilles, neatly featured and proportioned in all the members of his body, of a good temperament in his humours, well-complexioned in his spirits, of a competent age, in an opportune time, and of a reasonably forward mind to be married. Truly, if he encounter with a wife of the like nature, temperament, and constitution, he may beget upon her children worthy of some transpontine monarchy. And the sooner he marry it will be the better for him, and the more conducible for his profit if he would see and have his children in his own time well provided for. Sir, my worthy master, quoth Panurge, I will do it. Do not you doubt thereof, and that quickly enough, I warrant you. Nevertheless, whilst you were busied in the uttering of your learned discourse, this flea which I have in mine ear hath tickled me more than ever. I retain you in the number of my festival guests, and promise you that we shall not want for mirth and good cheer enough, yea, over and above the ordinary rate. And, if it may please you, desire your wife to come along with you, together with her she friends and neighbours that is to be understood, and there shall be fair play. Chapter 3.32 How Rondabilles declareth cuckoldry to be naturally one of the appendences of marriage. There remaineth as yet, quoth Panurge, going on in his discourse, one small scruple to be cleared. You have seen heretofore, I doubt not in the Roman standards, SPQR Pu Querine. Shall not I be a cuckold? By the haven of safety, cried out Rondabilles, what is this you ask of me? If you shall be a cuckold. My noble friend, I am married, and you are like to be so very speedily. Therefore be pleased, from my experiment in the matter, to write in your brain with a steel pen this subsequent ditton, there is no married man who doth not run the hazard of being made a cuckold. Cuckoldry naturally attendeth marriage. The shadow doth not more naturally follow the body, than cuckoldry ensueth after marriage, to place fair horns upon the husband's heads. And when you shall happen to hear any man pronounce these 3 words, he is married. If you then say he is, hath been, shall be, or may be a cuckold, you will not be accounted an unskilful artist in framing of true consequences. Tripes and bowels of all the devils, cries Panurge, what do you tell me? My dear friend, answered Rondabilles, as Hippocrates on a time was in the very nick of setting forwards from Lango to Polystilo to visit the philosopher Democritus, he wrote a familiar letter to his friend Dionysius, wherein he desired him that he would, during the interval of his absence, carry his wife to the house of her father and mother, who were an honorable couple and of good repute, because I would not have her at my home, said he, to make abode in solitude. Yet, notwithstanding this her residence beside her parents, do not fail, quoth he, with a most heedful care and circumspection to pry into her ways, and to espy what places she shall go to with her mother, and who those be that shall repair unto her. Not, quoth he, that I do mistrust her virtue, or that I seem to have any diffidence of her pudicity and chaste behavior, for of that I have frequently had good and real proofs, but I must freely tell you, she is a woman. There lies the suspicion. My worthy friend, the nature of women is set forth before our eyes and represented to us by the moon, in divers other things as well as in this, that they squat, skulk, constrain their own inclinations, and, with all the cunning they can, dissemble and play the hypocrite in the sight and presence of their husbands, who come no sooner to be out of the way, but that forthwith they take their advantage, pass the time merrily, desist from all labor, frolic it, gad abroad, lay aside their counterfeit garb, and openly declare and manifest the interior of their dispositions, even as the moon, when she is in conjunction with the sun, is neither seen in the heavens nor on the earth, but in her opposition, when remotest from him, shineth in her greatest fullness, and wholly appeareth in her brightest splendor whilst it is night. Thus women are but women. When I say womankind, I speak of a sex so frail, so variable, so changeable, so fickle, inconstant, and imperfect, that in my opinion nature, under favor, nevertheless, of the prime honor and reverence which is due unto her, did in a manner mistake the road which she had traced formerly, and stray exceedingly from that excellence of providential judgment by the which she had created and formed all other things, when she built, framed, and made up the woman. And having thought upon it 105 times, I know not what else to determine therein, save only that in the devising, hammering, forging, and composing of the woman she hath had a much tender regard, and by a great deal more respectful heed to the delightful consortship and sociable delectation of the man, than to the perfection and accomplishment of the individual womanishness or muliebrity. The divine philosopher Plato was doubtful in what rank of living creatures to place and collocate them, whether amongst the rational animals, by elevating them to an upper seat in the specifical classes of humanity, or with the irrational, by degrading them to a lower bench on the opposite side, of a brutal kind and mere bestiality. For nature hath posited in a privy, secret, and intestine place of their bodies, a sort of member, by some not impertinently termed an animal, which is not to be found in men. Therein sometimes are engendered certain humors so saltish, brackish, clammy, sharp, nipping, tearing, prickling, and most eagerly tickling, that by their stinging acrimony, rending nitrosity, figging itch, wriggling morticancy, and smarting salsitude, for the said member is altogether sinewy and of a most quick and lively feeling, their whole body is shaken and ebrangled, their senses totally ravished and transported, the operations of their judgment and understanding utterly confounded, and all disordinate passions and perturbations of the mind, thoroughly and absolutely allowed, admitted, and approved of. Yea, in such sort that if nature had not been so favorable unto them as to have sprinkled their forehead with a little tincture of bashfulness and modesty, you should see them in a so frantic mood run mad after lechery, and hie a pace up and down with haste and lust, in quest of, and to fix some chamber standard in their Paphian ground, that never did the Proteids, Mimilonides, nor Laian Thiades deport themselves in the time of their Bacchanalian festivals more shamelessly, or with a so affronted and brazen-faced impudency, because this terrible animal is knit unto, and hath in union with all the chief and most principal parts of the body, as to anatomists is evident. Let it not here be thought strange that I should call it an animal, seeing therein I do no otherwise than follow and adhere to the doctrine of the academic and peripatetic philosophers. For if a proper motion be a certain mark, an infallible token of the life and animation of the mover, as Aristotle writeth, and that any such thing as moveth of itself ought to be held animated and of a living nature, then assuredly Plato with very good reason did give it the denomination of an animal, for that he perceived and observed in it the proper and self-stirring motions of suffocation, precipitation, corrugation, and of indignation so extremely violent, that oftentimes by them is taken and removed from the woman all other sense and moving whatsoever, as if she were in a swounding lipothymy, benumbing syncope, epileptic, apoplectic palsy, and true resemblance of a pale-faced death. Furthermore, in the said member there is a manifest discerning faculty of sense and odors very perceptible to women, who feel it fly from what is rank and unsavory, and follow fragrant and aromatic smells. It is not unknown to me how C.L. Galen striveth with might and main to prove that these are not proper and particular notions proceeding intrinsically from the thing itself, but accidentally and by chance. Nor hath it escaped my notice how others of that sect have labored hardly, yea, to the utmost of their abilities, to demonstrate that it is not a sensitive discerning or perception in it of the difference of wafts and smells, but merely a various manner of virtue and efficacy passing forth and flowing from the diversity of odoriferous substances applied near unto it. Nevertheless, if you will studiously examine and seriously ponder and weigh in Crittolauses balance the strength of their reasons and arguments, you shall find that they, not only in this, but in several other matters also of the like nature, have spoken at random, and rather out of an ambitious envy to check and reprehend their betters than for any design to make inquiry into the solid truth. I will not launch my little skiff any further into the wide ocean of this dispute. Only will I tell you that the praise and commendation is not mean and slender which is due to those honest and good women who, living chastely and without blame, have had the power and virtue to curb, range, and subdue that unbridled, heady, and wild animal to an obedient, submissive, and obsequious yielding unto reason. Therefore here will I make an end of my discourse thereon, when I shall have told you that the said animal being once satiated, if it be possible, that it can be contented or satisfied by that aliment which nature hath provided for it out of the epididymal storehouse of man, all its former and irregular and disordered motions are at an end, laid and assuaged, all its vehement and unruly longings lulled, pacified, and quieted, and all the furious and raging lusts, appetites, and desires thereof appeased, calmed and extinguished. For this cause let it seem nothing strange unto you, if we be in a perpetual danger of being cuckolds, that is to say, such of us as have not wherewithal fully to satisfy the appetite and expectation of that voracious animal. Odds fish, quoth Panurge, have you no preventive cure in all your medicinal art for hindering one's head to be horny-graft at home, whilst his feet are plodding abroad? Yes, that I have, my gallant friend, answered Rondabilles, and that which is a sovereign remedy, whereof I frequently make use myself. And that you may the better relish, it is set down and written in the book of a most famous author, whose renown is of a standing of 2,000 years. Hearken and take good heed. You are, quoth Panurge, by Cockshabby, a right honest man, and I love you with all my heart. Eat a little of this quinspy. It is very proper and convenient for the shutting up of the orifice of the ventricle of the stomach, because of a kind of astringent stipticity which is in that sort of fruit, and is helpful to the first concoction. But what? I think I speak Latin before clerks. Stay till I give you somewhat to drink out of this Nestorian goblet. Will you have another draught of white hippocras? Be not afraid of the squinsy, no. There is neither squinant, ginger, nor grains in it, only a little choice cinnamon, and some of the best refined sugar, with the delicious white wine of the growth of that vine which was set in the slips of the great sorbapple above the walnut tree. Chapter 3.33 Rondabilles the Physician's Cure of Cuckoldry. At that time, quoth Rondabilles, when Jupiter took a view of the state of his Olympic house and family, and that he had made the calendar of all the gods and goddesses, appointing unto the festival of every one of them its proper day and season, establishing certain fixed places and stations for the pronouncing of oracles and relief of traveling pilgrims, and ordaining victims, immolations, and sacrifices suitable and correspondent to the dignity and nature of the worshipped and adored deity did not he do, asked Panurge, therein as Tintuil, the bishop of Auxerre, is said once to have done. This noble prelate loved entirely the pure liquor of the grape, as every honest and judicious man doth. Therefore was it that he had an especial care, and regard to the bud of the vine tree, as to the great-grandfather of Bacchus. But so it is, that for sundry years together he saw a most pitiful havoc, desolation and destruction made amongst the sprouts, shootings, buds, blossoms, and scions of the vines by hoary frost, dank fogs, hot mists, unseasonable colds, chill blasts, thick hail, and other calamitous chances of foul weather, happening, as he thought, by the dismal inauspiciousness of the holy days of St. George, St. Mary, St. Paul, St. Eutrope, Holy Rood, the Ascension, and other festivals. In that time when the sun passeth under the sign of Taurus, and thereupon harbored in his mind this opinion, that the aforenamed saints were Saint Hailflingers, Saint Frostsenders, Saint Fogmongers, and Saint Spoilers of the vine buds. For which cause he went about to have transmitted their feasts from the spring to the winter, to be celebrated between Christmas and Epiphany, so the mother of the three kings called it, allowing them with all honor and reverence the liberty then to freeze, hail, and rain as much as they would. For that he knew that at such a time frost was rather profitable than hurtful to the vine buds, and in their steads to have placed the festivals of Saint Christopher, Saint John the Baptist, Saint Magdalene, Saint Anne, Saint Domingo, and Saint Lawrence. Yea, and to have gone so far as to collocate and transpose the middle of August in and to the beginning of May, because during the whole space of their solemnity there was so little danger of hoary frosts and cold mists, that no artificers are then held in greater request than the afforders of refrigerating inventions, makers of junkets, fit disposers of cooling shades, composers of green arbors, and refreshers of wine. Jupiter, said Rondabilles, forgot the poor devil Cuckoldry, who was then in the court at Paris very eagerly soliciting a peddling suit at law for one of his vassals and tenants. Within some few days thereafter, I have forgot how many, when he got full notice of the trick which in his absence was done unto him, he instantly desisted from prosecuting legal processes in the behalf of others, full of solicitude to pursue after his own business, lest he should be foreclosed, and thereupon he appeared personally at the tribunal of the great Jupiter, displayed before him the importance of his preceding merits, together with the acceptable services which in obedience to his commandments he had formerly performed, and therefore in all humility begged of him that he would be pleased not to leave him alone amongst all the sacred potentates, destitute and void of honor, reverence, sacrifices, and festival ceremonies. To this petition Jupiter's answer was excusatory, that all the places and offices of his house were bestowed. Nevertheless, so importuned was he by the continual supplications of Monsieur Cuckoldry, that he, in fine, placed him in the rank, list, roll, rubric, and catalogue, and appointed honors, sacrifices, and festival rites to be observed on earth in great devotion, and tendered to him with solemnity. The feast, because there was no void, empty, nor vacant place in all the calendar, was to be celebrated jointly with, and on the same day that had been consecrated to the goddess Jealousy. His power and dominion should be over married folks, especially such as had handsome wives. His sacrifices were to be suspicion, diffidence, mistrust, a lowering, pouting sullenness, watchings, wardings, researchings, plyings, explorations, together with the waylayings, ambushes, narrow observations, and malicious doggings of the husbands, scouts, and espials of the most privy actions of their wives. Herewithal every married man was expressly and rigorously commanded to reverence, honor, and worship him, to celebrate and solemnize his festival with twice more respect than that of any other saint or deity, and to immolate unto him with all sincerity and alacrity of heart the above-mentioned sacrifices and oblations, under pain of severe censures, threatenings, and comminations of these subsequent fines, mulcts, amerciaments, penalties, and punishments to be inflicted on the delinquents. That Monsieur Cuckoldry should never be favorable nor propitious to them, that he should never help, aid, supply, succor, nor grant them any subventitious furtherance, auxiliary suffrage, or admoniculary assistance, that he should never hold them in any reckoning, account, or estimation, that he should never deign to enter within their houses, neither at the doors, windows, nor any other place thereof, that he should never haunt, nor frequent their companies or conversations, how frequently soever they should invocate him and call upon his name, and that not only he should leave and abandon them to rot alone with their wives in sempiternal solitariness, without the benefit of the diversion of any copsemate or coeval at all, but should withal shun and eschew them, fly from them, and eternally forsake and reject them as impious heretics and sacrilegious persons, according to the accustomed manner of other gods, towards such as are too slack in offering up the duties and reverences which ought to be performed respectively to their divinities, as is evidently apparent in Bacchus towards negligent vine-dressers, in Ceres against idle ploughmen and tillers of the ground, in Pomona to unworthy fruiterers and costard-mongers, in Neptune towards dissolute mariners and seafaring men, in Vulcan towards loitering smiths and forgemen, and so throughout the rest. Now, on the contrary, this infallible promise was added, that unto all those who should make a holy day of the above-recited festival, and cease from all manner of worldly work and negotiation, lay aside all their own most important occasions, and to be so wretchless, heedless, and careless of what might concern the management of their proper affairs, as to mind nothing else but a suspicious espying and prying into the secret deportments of their wives, and how to coop, shut up, hold ad under, and deal cruelly and austerely with them by all the harshness and hardships that an implacable and every way inexorable jealousy can devise and suggest, conform to the sacred ordinances of the aforementioned sacrifices and oblations, he should be continually favorable to them, should love them, sociably converse with them, should be day and night in their houses, and never leave them destitute of his presence. Now I have said, and you have heard my cure. Quoth Carpelin, laughing, this is a remedy yet more apt and proper than Hans Carvel's ring. The devil take me if I do not believe it. The humor, inclination, and nature of women is like the thunder, whose force in its bolt or otherwise burneth, bruiseth, and breaketh only hard, massive, and resisting objects, without staying or stopping at soft, empty, and yielding matters. For it pasheth into pieces the steel sword, without doing any hurt to the velvet scabbard which ensheatheth it. It crusheth also and consumeth the bones without wounding or in damaging the flesh wherewith they are veiled and covered. Just so it is that women for the greater part never bend the contention, subtlety, and contradictory disposition of their spirits, unless it be to do what is prohibited and forbidden. Verily, quoth Hippothathe, Some of our doctors aver for a truth that the first woman of the world, whom the Hebrews call Eve, had hardly been induced or allured into the temptation of eating of the fruit of the tree of life, if it had not been forbidden her so to do. And that you may give the more credit to the validity of this opinion, consider how the cautelous and wily tempter did commemorate unto her, for an antecedent to his enthymeme, the prohibition which was made to taste it, as being desirous to infer from thence, it is forbidden thee. Therefore thou shouldst eat of it, else thou canst not be a woman. Chapter 3.34. How women ordinarily have the greatest longing after things prohibited. When I was, quoth Carpelin, a whoremaster at Orleans, the whole art of rhetoric in all its tropes and figures was not able to afford unto me a color or flourish of greater force and value. Nor could I by any other form or manner of elocution pitch upon a more persuasive argument for bringing young beautiful married ladies into the snares of adultery, through alluring and enticing them to taste with me of amorous delights, than with a lively spritefulness to tell them in downright terms, and to remonstrate to them with a great show of detestation of a crime so horrid, how their husbands were jealous. This was none of my invention. It is written, and we have laws, examples, reasons, and daily experiences confirmative of the same. If this belief once enter into their noddles, their husbands will infallibly be cuckolds. Yea, by God, will they, without swearing, although they should do like Semiramis, Pasiphae, Egesta, the women of the Isle Mandes in Egypt, and other such like queenish flirting harlots mentioned in the writings of Herodotus, Strabo, and such like puppies. Truly, quoth Ponocrates, I have heard it related, and it hath been told me for a verity, that Pope John 22, passing on a day through the abbey of Tucherome, was in all humility required and besought by the abbess and other discreet mothers of the said convent to grant them an indulgence by means whereof they might confess themselves to one another, alleging that religious women were subject to some petty secret slips and imperfections, which would be a foul and burning shame for them to discover and to reveal to men, how sacerdotal soever their functions were, but that they would freelier, more familiarly, and with greater cheerfulness, open to each other their offenses, faults, and escapes under the seal of confession. There is not anything, answered the Pope, fitting for you to impetrate of me which I would not most willingly condescend unto, but I find one inconvenience. You know confession should be kept secret, and women are not able to do so. Exceeding well, quoth they, most holy Father, and much more closely than the best of men. The said Pope on the very same day gave them in keeping a pretty box, wherein he purposely caused a little in it to be put, willing them very gently and courteously to lock it up in some sure and hidden place, and promising them, by the faith of a pope, that he should yield to their request if they would keep secret what was enclosed within that deposited box, enjoining them withal not to presume one way nor other, directly or indirectly, to go about the opening thereof, under pain of the highest ecclesiastical censure, eternal excommunication. The prohibition was no sooner made, but that they did all of them boil with a most ardent desire to know and see what kind of thing it was that was within it. They thought long already that the Pope was not gone, to the end they might jointly, with the more leisure and ease, apply themselves to the box-opening curiosity. The Holy Father, after he had given them his benediction, retired and withdrew himself to the pontifical lodgings of his own palace. But he was hardly gone 3 steps from without the gates of their cloister when the good ladies throngingly, and as in a huddled crowd, pressing hard on the backs of one another, ran thrusting and shoving who should be first at the setting open of the forbidden box and descrying of the quad latitat within. On the very next day thereafter the Pope made them another visit, of a full design, purpose, and intention, as they imagined, to dispatch the grant of their sought and wished-for indulgence. But before he would enter into any chat or communing with them, he commanded the casket to be brought unto him. It was done so accordingly, but by your leave the bird was no more there. Then was it that the Pope did represent to their maternities how hard a matter and difficult it was for them to keep secrets revealed to them in confession unmanifested to the ears of others. Seeing for the space of 24 hours they were not able to lay up in secret a box which he had highly recommended to their discretion, charge, and custody. Welcome, in good faith, my dear master, welcome. It did me good to hear you talk, The Lord be praised for all. I do not remember to have seen you before now, since the last time that you acted at Montpellier with our ancient friends, Anthony Sapora, Guy Bergier, Balthazar Neuer, Tollet, John Quentin, Francis Robinette, John Perdrier, and Francis Rabelais, the moral comedy of him who had espoused and married a dumb wife. I was there, quoth Epistemen. The good honest man, her husband, was very earnestly urgent to have the fillet of her tongue untied, and would needs have her speak by any means. At his desire some pains were taken on her, and partly by the industry of the physician, other part by the expertness of the surgeon, the ensiloglot which she had under her tongue being cut, she spoke and spoke again. Yea, within a few hours she spoke so loud, so much, so fiercely, and so long, that her poor husband returned to the same physician for a recipe to make her hold her peace. There are, quoth the physician, many proper remedies in our art to make dumb women speak, but there are none that ever I could learn therein to make them silent. The only cure which I have found out is their husband's deafness. The wretch became within few weeks thereafter, by virtue of some drugs, charms, or enchantments which the physician had prescribed unto him, so deaf that he could not have heard the thundering of 1900 cannons at a salvo. His wife perceiving that indeed he was as deaf as a doornail, and that her scolding was but in vain, sith that he heard her not, she grew stark mad. Some time after the doctor asked for his fee of the husband, who answered that truly he was deaf, and so was not able to understand what the tenor of his demand might be. Whereupon the leech bedusted him with a little, I know not what, sort of powder, which rendered him a fool immediately, so great was the stultificating virtue of that strange kind of pulverized dose. Then did this fool of a husband and his mad wife join together, and falling on the doctor and the surgeon, did so scratch, bethwack, and bang them that they were left half dead upon the place. So furious were the blows which they received. I never in my lifetime laughed so much as at the acting of that buffoonery. Let us come to where we left off, quoth Panurge. Your words, being translated from the Clapperdudgeons to plain English, do signify that it is not very inexpedient that I marry, and that I should not care for being a cuckold. You have there hit the nail on the head. I believe, Master Doctor, that on the day of my marriage you will be so much taken up with your patients, or otherwise so seriously employed, that we shall not enjoy your company. Sir, I will heartily excuse your absence. Stercus et urina medici, sunt prandia prima. Ex alias paleas, existis college grana. You are mistaken, quoth Rondebilles in the second verse of our distich, for it ought to run thus. Nobis sunt signa, vobis sunt prandia digna. If my wife at any time prove to be unwell and ill at ease, I will look upon the water which she shall have made in an urinal glass, quoth Rondebilles, grope her pulse, and see the disposition of her hypogaster, together with her umbilicary parts according to the prescript rule of Hippocrates. 2. APH 35, before I proceed any further in the cure of her distemper. No, no, quoth Panurge, that will be but to little purpose. Such a feat is for the practice of us that are lawyers, who have the rubric, deventur inspiciendo. Do not therefore trouble yourself about it, Master Doctor. I will provide for her a plaster of warm guts. Do not neglect your more urgent occasions otherwhere for coming to my wedding. I will send you some supply of victuals to your own house, without putting you to the trouble of coming abroad, and you shall always be my special friend. With this, approaching somewhat nearer to him, he clapped into his hand, without the speaking of so much as one word, 4 rose nobles. Rondebilles did shut his fist upon them right kindly. Yet, as if it had displeased him to make acceptance of such golden presents, he in a start, as if he had been wroth, said, he. There was no need of anything, I thank you nevertheless. From wicked folks I never get enough, and I from honest people refuse nothing. I shall be always, sir, at your command. Provided that I pay you well, quoth Panurge. That, quoth Rondebilles, is understood. Chapter 3.35 How the Philosopher Truilogen handleth the difficulty of marriage. As this discourse was ended, Pantagruel said to the philosopher Truilogen, our loyal, honest, true, and trusty friend, the lamp from hand to hand is come to you. It falleth to your turn to give an answer. Should Panurge pray you marry, yea or no? He should do both, quoth Truilogen. What say you? Asked Panurge. That which you have heard, answered Truilogen. What have I heard? Replied Panurge. That which I have said, replied Truilogen. Ha. Are we come to that pass? Quoth Panurge. Let it go nevertheless, I do not value it at a rush, seeing we can make no better of the game. But howsoever tell me, should I marry or no? Neither the one nor the other, answered Truilogen. The devil take me, quoth Panurge, if these odd answers do not make me dote, and may he snatch me presently away if I do understand you. Stay a while until I fasten these spectacles of mine on this left ear, that I may hear you better. With this Pantagruel perceived at the door of the great hall, which was that day their dining room, Gargantua's little dog, whose name was Kine. For so was Toby's dog called, as is recorded. Then did he say to these who were there present, Our king is not far off, let us all rise. That word was scarcely sooner uttered, than that Gargantua with his royal presence graced that banqueting and stately hall. Each of the guests arose to do their king that reverence and duty which became them. After that Gargantua had most affably saluted all the gentlemen there present, he said, Good friends, I beg this favor of you, and therein you will very much oblige me, that you leave not the places where you sate nor quit the discourse you were upon. Let a chair be brought hither unto this end of the table, and reach me a cupful of the strongest and best wine you have, that I may drink to all the company. You are in faith all welcome, gentlemen. Now let me know what talk you were about. To this Pantagruel answered that at the beginning of the second service Panurge had proposed a problematic theme, to wit, whether he should marry or not marry. That Father Hippothathe and Dr. Rondabiles had already dispatched their resolutions thereupon, and that, just as his Majesty was coming in, the faithful Truilogen in the delivery of his opinion hath thus far proceeded, that when Panurge asked whether he ought to marry, yea or no. At first he made this answer, both together. When this same question was again propounded, his second answer was, neither the one nor the other. Panurge exclaimeth that those answers are full of repugnancies and contradictions, protesting that he understands them not, nor what it is that can be meant by them. If I be not mistaken, quoth Gargantua, I understand it very well. The answer is not unlike to that which was once made by a philosopher in ancient times, who being interrogated if he had a woman whom they named him to his wife. I have her, quoth he, but she hath not me possessing her, by her I am not possessed. Such another answer, quoth Pantagruel, was once made by a certain bouncing wench of Sparta, who being asked if at any time she had had to do with a man. No, quoth she, but sometimes men have had to do with me. Well then, quoth Rondabiles, let it be a neuter in physic, as when we say a body is neuter, when it is neither sick nor healthful, and a mean in philosophy. That, by an abnegation of both extremes, and this by the participation of the one and of the other. Even as when lukewarm water is said to be both hot and cold. Or rather, as when time makes the partition, and equally divides betwixt the two, a while in the one, another while is long in the other opposite extremity. The holy apostle, quoth Hippothathe, seemeth, as I conceive, to have more clearly explained this point when he said, Those that are married, let them be as if they were not married. And those that have wives, let them be as if they had no wives at all. I thus interpret, quoth Pantagruel, the having and not having of a wife. To have a wife is to have the use of her in such a way as nature hath ordained, which is for the aid, society, and solace of man, and propagating of his race. To have no wife is not to be uxorious, play the coward, and be lazy about her, and not for her sake to disdain the luster of that affection which man owes to God, or yet for her to leave those offices and duties which he owes unto his country, unto his friends and kindred, or for her to abandon and forsake his precious studies and other businesses of account, to wait still on her will, her beck, and her buttocks. If we be pleased in this sense to take having and not having of a wife, we shall indeed find no repugnancy nor contradiction in the terms at all.